Hello everybody, my dear friends, students, anybody who interested in programming, mobile programming, Android programmer. Today is our next lesson and we are going to create more or less a meaningful application. And I just wanted to show you first how it's supposed to work, and then we will go through the steps. There are three widgets, three buttons. If I click on the buttons, you see the text is changing. So any button, remember, clicks and react on clicks. If you, by the way, of course, there is a fourth widget on the screen. It's not visible. It's a layout, linear layout widget also there, but you know that we don't see layouts. We use them to organize other widgets. So if I turn my device, you see it's reset. So when you turn your device, by default, what happens? Your application is restarting. So all the clicks are zeroed. Well, technically speaking, you can remember the state of your app. So when the user turns it, it's still there. But right now, we are not going to do that more advanced stuff. So I'm just showing you that layout still good. So layout responsible for positioning widgets, for resizing widgets, and you clearly see, despite of the fact my screen changed a lot, I turned my device, my design still good, and that's the linear layout responsibility. Linear layout is organizers for the widgets. So let's turn it back. And that's what we are going to do. That's the application we are going to develop. And the important thing is the steps. So when we going to develop mobile apps, we are going to follow three simple steps. First step, design. You develop the screen, the colors, positioning, alignments. Second step, wiring. You have to make sure your event handlers are attached, so Java code is working when you do something or the user does something. And finally, after you check the wiring is done, you can complete your app, you can provide the application logic. So we are going to follow those three steps: developing mobile apps, design, wiring, and logic of the application. Okay, so now I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm closing my Android virtual device. I'm closing my project and I start a new one. Empty activity. Let's call it three buttons. And Java is our development language. I don't change domain. I don't change my folder. I don't change minimum SDK. I click finish. And here we are. Watch the status bar. The basic project structure is created. And you have two files, XML and Java. And you can start working. Now, if we're talking about XML file, it's your layout code. It's the all the widgets you're going to put in your application. So by default, if you don't change anything, so the wizard, two screens wizard that creates a basic app, generate constraint layout, which is advanced layout. It has lots of features, and I prefer for the beginners to use the simplest layout. It is linear, so I think it makes sense for the beginners to start from a linear layout. Then you can learn, let's say, table layout or grid layout. So step by step, and then finally you can master constraint layout after you have experience working with simpler layouts. So I'm going to create new linear layout. Look where you can do it. File, new, XML, layout XML file. Let's call it main layout, so that's good. Name is good. Type linear. It's done. But now I have two layouts, so definitely I don't need two. So what I have to do in my main activity, I have to now change the old one, which was generated by Android Studio, to my linear layout. So now I don't need the advanced constraint layout. I can just right click on it and delete. So again, the reason is linear layout is simpler. It is easier to understand, and constraint layout may be the most advanced layout in Android development. And confirmation. Okay, so let's take a look what I got. I got nothing. I don't even have hello world text. So let's run it. Let's see how it's working on AVD, Android Virtual Device. Right now I have two virtual devices. One is older, Nougat. Second is newer, API 30. So let's see what happens. That's the leftovers. It's an old app, so it's going to be deleted. So you see, yes, I have nothing. I have no widgets. My screen is empty. My layout is linear, which is, so what does it mean? Linear layout. You position your widgets vertically, or you position them in one row horizontally. Very simple layout. And it has two orientations. It may be horizontal or vertical. So let's make it vertical. Again, when you operate with the attributes, there are a few groups of the attributes. So I prefer the last one, all attributes, because it's complete list of all the attributes. So which one do I need? I need orientation attribute. Orientation. Let's change it to vertical. Probably we may keep a track of the popular attributes for the widgets we are going to use. So let's just keep track. The first one, orientation. Good. Now I need 3 buttons, so I drag and drop, but I avoid dragging and dropping widgets here on design screen because you may misplace your widgets. And sometimes it's hard to fix after you drop them to the wrong spot. After Android Studio generated some XML code for you, sometimes it's not easy to fix such issues. So I prefer to drag and drop to component tree. So this is easier. I don't worry about the location. And you see, they are they are vertically aligned because it's a linear layout, vertical linear layout. And probably I may have to set up padding, because if you don't set up padding for your linear layout, your widget's going to basically touch the edges of the device, which is not nice. So I select linear layout and I change padding attribute. Padding. Let's make it 15 dp. dp, it's pixels. Now you see it's better, so let me write it down. The next attribute I changed was padding. Good. Let's try. Let's run it. Let's take a look. Yes, you see it is much better. I have a padding. I can click on my buttons. You see the animation when you click or tap. Sometimes we call this tap, T-A-P. Good. Now, what would be my next step? I would like the buttons to take the whole area of my screen. So there is for linear layout, there is an interesting attribute weight. So you can specify in basically percentage how much space each layout going to consume. But before I set it up, I have to make the height for all those buttons 0. So that's the rule. If you want to use weight, you have to set up layout height for all 3 buttons. By the way, I used Control key to select 3 buttons. Again, I don't work here. I may make a mistake. I'm selecting here in component tree. So I'm going to make it 0 pixels. And then you can set up the weight. So let me again write it down what I'm using so you can memorize what attributes I used. So weight, layout, sorry, not just weight, layout weight. Layout weight for all the buttons going to be 1. What does it mean? That means any button going to take the same space, regardless of the device, regardless of the orientation, 1/3. Each button 1/3. But you can make, let's say, one button 2 units, one button one, another button one. So yes, you can play with the weight, and this way one button going to take 50% of the space, and the other button going to take a quarter and a quarter. So by playing with the layout weight, you can precisely tell how much space I need for each button. Let's test. Let's see what happens. It's asking to terminate the old app because you already built an app. And do you want to terminate? Yes, I want to terminate my old app. And we are done. And you see now they take equal space. Let's change the text of those buttons. And by the way, what those yellow messages, it's actually about the name of your widgets. So technically speaking, it's not recommended to put the names of your widgets directly in the attributes fields. It's not quite flexible way to do your design, because you may change your mind, you may rename your widgets, you may use international labels for the buttons. So we don't do that usually. Instead, we open in an important file. It's called strings XML. It's located in res folder, then values subfolder. So this is quite important file, strings XML. You can provide here actually the name for all your three buttons. Let's call it button name. And what would be button name? It would be 0 clicks. So when the application starts, all the buttons supposed to show 0. Now I have to connect my buttons to this string. String has a name, button name. So I'm going to my XML file. I select three buttons using Control key. I go to text attribute, but I don't click in the field. I click on the small line at the right. It'll show me the dialog. So button name, OK. And now you see they all have the same text. Let's test. Yes, text is changed. And now it's much easier for me to change my text later on when I change my mind, let's say, or I use other languages, because it's isolated. So the name is isolated in a special file. I may have much more than three buttons. And if I do it here, if I do the naming in the attributes, it's a lot of work. But if you using a separate file, you can connect to the same name 10 buttons. So it's much easier now to maintain your design and modify your design. Good. What else? Let's increase the size. I think the text kind of small right now. So what I recommend, to have another XML file where you can provide the dimensions for your widgets. So colors and strings files, they generated by Android Studio automatically. but dimensions file not. So I'm going to right click on values folder. I'm going to go to new values resource file, and let's call it dimensions. So in the dimensions file, you can provide all kind of sizes for your elements. So you need daemon element. So let's call it button text size. And what would be the size? Let's make it 30 scalable pixels. So for text, usually we use SP, scalable pixels. Oh, I put it in a wrong place. I have to put, of course, this element has to be between resource and resource. Now, no error messages. I'm good, but I have to connect. So I go to main layout. I select 3 buttons. By the way, what last attribute we changed? It was text. Let's keep track of all the popular attributes we using. So now I need to change text size. And again, I don't have to click here in the field. I click on the line on the right, and that's my size. Now you see it's bigger because it's 30, but now I can change it right away to 40, 50. It's much easier to keep the size separated. So let's run it. So the new attribute was text size. Let's double check the spelling because capital letters sometimes important. Text size. Okay, let's run it. Yes, it's bigger now, and probably I can change the color. So maybe I can make the text color different, the background color different. So where can I change the colors? There is a special file, it's called colors. So in values folder, we supposed to maintain 3 important XML files for your design: colors, dimensions, strings. So let's go to colors and let's add 2 more colors. I just copy paste. So the next color would be button text color, and this going to be button tint. Button tint. Why tint, you will see. So how do you change the color? So you can just click here and you can pick up whatever you like. Let's say button text color is red. So I'm just clicking on the small square on the left of your element, and let's make tint blue. So I defined a couple more colors. Some colors, they were defined by the system, by the Android, so I don't touch usually stuff I did not create. And I can now go to main layout. I can select 3 buttons and I can set up now the text color. I'm clicking on the right side of the field and this is my color. So which attribute? Text color. Because you have to memorize them if you're using attributes window, attributes list may be very, very long. So you have to memorize the most popular attributes. So it's done. And let's change the tint. So I'm going to make sure 3 buttons are selected. And it's called background tint. Don't confuse background tint mode. No, just background tint. So I click button pick a resource and I make it button tint. Let's write it down. So the attribute we used called background tint. So I can try again. Let's restart you up. And here we are. I see I did my design. So I created all the widgets. Actually, I need 4 widgets for this app. You see in component 3, actually all your widgets. Linear layout, invisible widget, it's organizer. You see 3 buttons. And they are clickable. You see the animation when you tap, when you click. Of course, they're not changing because we haven't yet attached any coding to our app. But design is good. I can rotate and you see it's still good even you rotate. So layout managers, they're responsible to maintain good layout for any devices, any screen sizes. Now I can turn it back and that's it. So congratulations, we did the first step of application development. We did design. In the next lesson we are going to do the wiring. We are going to create our first event handlers. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, it's not just one video, it's a course. So after you understand this topic, go to the next. And all the best to you. Bye bye.